Well, hey folks, I don't know if you're a member of any of the forums or the Facebook groups, specifically the gardening groups. I've joined a couple of them, and just my opinion here, folks. Um, Mainly women on there. You don't have very many men. You got one or two, but mainly women who seem to talk out of their ass on things. And the reason I say that, specifically, one thing today only: these butterfly bushes. Now, I didn't let what they say influence me at all. I usually cut these down to the basically a few inches down from the dirt. They spring back up every year. This year I wanted to see how they would do if I just gave them a super light pruning, right? So very light, as you can see. I barely did anything to them. And yeah, they're growing great. They look nice, okay? And I have no doubt we're going to get flowers and they're going to attract butterflies and hummingbirds and everything else. But I want you to look at the leaves on these, right? And the reason I'm saying this is because all of these women on these groups say that if you cut them all the way back, they'll die and they'll never develop and they'll be no good, and you have to leave them alone. I understand leave them alone, right? Let them look natural, but I'm going somewhere with this. So I think it's a beautiful looking butterfly bush so far, but stay with me. Okay, I have 4 examples of this to show you. So I'm not just talking out my butt like some of these other people do. Here's another one. Barely gave it any pruning, just the very tips of it, right? Just to get the old dead dried flowers off of it. Once again, it's going to be a beautiful plant. I have no doubt. I fertilize it, I water it. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, here's another example here. Same thing, a butterfly bush. And once again, this one I just pruned today. I only took back just the dead flowers that were on it. That's it. Left everything else intact. Let it be natural. Now we're going to come over here. Look at this butterfly bush. I cut this one all the way down to the dirt. All the way down. Okay, so look at the difference. This one I left all winter long. I minimally pruned it, just the tips. This one I cut back all the way to the ground. And look at how vigorous this one's growing. And look at the difference in the size of the leaves. And you can tell all this is new growth. See, it's nice and supple new growth all throughout here. And I bet you every one of these are going to flower. We'll uh, we'll follow we'll follow through this in the summer and see. But I'm guessing that since I clipped this back to the ground and that's all new growth, I think we're going to get huge flowers. And this plant just looks super vigorous. Whereas these other ones kept the leaves from last year. See, these are all leaves from last year. Um, some of them are new leaves, but look at the size difference. So I guess what I'm trying to say is don't believe everything you read in these gardening groups. Um, some of these people have no real world experience, and they just regurgitate the same thing that they hear year after year after year. I mean, look at the difference. You saw those 3? Look at how vigorous that one is. Cut it to the ground. I personally think pruning them back hard is the way to go. Here's another example. Got my big cherry tree. I had an arborist come in at the beginning of the winter. There was some dead wood right there, as you can see, those 2 stumps right there. Had them cut it out. I just had them do whatever they thought was necessary to prune it. I told them I still wanted a shade tree. I don't know if you can see those. There are little green cherries loaded all over this tree. And I think that's because it was pruned and now it can grow much vigorously. Now I bet you if I prune this back real hard, it would produce tons of fruit. But this one here, I still wanted this to be a shade tree because it gives nice shade to the bedroom. But look at all the cherries we're going to have this year. And I think that's a result of pruning it. Here's my apple tree. When I pruned it back, people told me I pruned it too hard and I'm going to kill it. It bounced right back. Look at it. And now I've got a shape that I'm somewhat happy with here, pretty happy with. It's got all kinds of new growth on it. It can grow vigorously. It's got nice fruit popping up on it everywhere. Look at that. It has fruit all over it. And it's growing right back. They respond very well to pruning. Same thing with the pear tree. I hit this one pretty good too. I pruned it back pretty well too. And look at it. It's just growing like crazy. Look at all the new tips growing on it all over the place. See, I'm trying to encourage more outward growth on this instead of straight up like pears grow. And I'm starting to get it. I could actually prune this one back harder, and I think it would be more beneficial, but I didn't. But once again, look at how nice it's growing. Yeah, I probably sacrificed some fruit on it for doing that, but we're still going to get fruit on it, as you can see. See, we're still getting fruit. But it's growing extremely vigorously and nice, and this is only mid-May. There's the apple tree. Now here's a contrast. Here's my peach tree. I didn't prune this back hard. And we're going to get some fruit on it, but I don't know. That doesn't look like it's growing very vigorously at all, does it? It looks kind of sparse. Doesn't look nearly as healthy as those other trees that I pruned back hard. So what does that tell me? I think this winter I'm going to prune this one back a little harder. That way it'll encourage new growth. Let's move on to another tree here. See, this here is a little Rainier cherry tree that I bought from a local nursery. And when I first looked at it, I was talking to the lady and the man there, and I told them, you know, I think this tree needs to be pruned as soon as I put it in the ground, while, you know, because it was still dormant at the time. Oh no, don't you dare prune it. Put it in the ground, put a great big stake right on either side of it, and tie it up so the wind can't blow it. And don't prune this tree for at least 3 years. And I said, you know, that's counterintuitive or productive or whatever to everything that I've read about fruit trees. Oh, no, 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 leave it alone, leave it alone. So what did I do? I left this one alone. And it's not growing any new branches. It's just getting leaves on the existing branches. It is getting some fruit, but it's not enough to write home about. And I know leaving the fruit on here when it's this small is gonna stunt the growth of the tree. So I know I should have pruned this, but I followed the advice of the nursery and I didn't prune it. And well, you can see the results. What should I have done to this tree? Honestly, when it was dormant, I probably should have snipped it right about here, right above the bud. It would have encouraged new growth down low. I could have got new branches, and for the first year I could have, you know, pretty much trained it how I wanted it. But I left it alone. And, you know, the results for this tree and this tree kind of speak for themselves. This tree's on its 4th year now. Last year we got fruit. It looked beautiful. I pruned it a little bit last year. This year I didn't. Makes sense, doesn't it, folks? Same thing with those butterfly bushes. It just kind of makes sense. Here's the Santa Rosa plum tree. This one, I gave it a very light pruning. I did prune it, but it was very light. Now this is only on its 2nd year, so I don't expect any fruit. I think we only have 2 plums on it, which usually you don't get fruit for the first 2 or 3 years. But look at how vigorously it's growing. Like I say, I gave it a light pruning. It's growing super vigorous. You know? I felt I should have pruned it back a little harder. I probably could have. I don't know, just saying, folks. This chocolate mint, I cut it back all the way to the dirt. Look at how vigorous it is. These grass plants, I cut them all the way down, like 3 inches from the ground. Look at how vigorous they all are. These things will be 6 or 8 feet tall. These guys here, I planted them last year, maybe a little bit earlier than this. And they never grew at all much last summer. I gave them a pruning in the winter, and look at them. They're growing nice now. I just deadheaded all the flowers on them. But see, there seems to be a theme here, right? Let's go back here. And I know they're all different, but it all makes sense, right? These here, I think these are salvia or something, I'm not sure. I cut these all the way back to the dirt. You couldn't see anything but dirt. Look at how they've exploded and come back. Because I cut them back to nothing. This Virginia creeper and this other shrub in there, I cut them all the way back to nothing. Look at them. They're just beautiful new growth, doing terrific. Now, here's a contrast. I didn't prune this. And look at it. Got a bunch of deadwood on it. It's just not doing very well. This one too. I didn't prune this one. I wanted to see what was going to happen. Bunch of deadwood on it too. Just, it's growing, but it's not growing like these other things. So I don't claim to be an expert on this, but I know what works for me. And, you know, these here, I cut these all the way back to nothing. Look at them now. They sprung right back. All new growth. Looking great. They're thriving like crazy. Same thing with the grass plants. Matter of fact, you can see where I cut them down. All the way down to the bottom. Look at them. They're just thriving. This here, I bet you, if I would have pruned this thing to the ground and threw all this mess away, I bet it would have been thriving real good instead of looking like that. It will start looking better in the summer. But if I would have hit that hard, I bet it would be doing great. This one here, I didn't cut back. I did it like a few days ago. And look, it's already starting to grow new green, and that'll be thriving later on. Same thing with these grass plants over here. Same thing with the grapevine. I cut it all the way down to nothing. There was nothing here. I just left a little stump. And look at it. All brand new growth. Get all those nice succulent ends on there. Great for my tortoises. People told me if you cut it back that far, you won't have grapes on it. What do you call this? There's grapes all over it. Matter of fact, I've already cut a lot off and given them to the tortoises. Same thing here with this beautiful purple catmint. Cut it down to nothing. Just dirt in the pot. Look at it now. It's so big, I don't even know what to do with it. Same thing with this mint. Cut it straight down with the hedge trimmer. Nothing. Look how it's just bound back. This one here, this I think it's like a red rocket or an orange rocket brayberry. I did not prune this one. Well, look at the difference here, folks. I'm starting to see a theme. I did not prune this azalea. Same kind of thing, right? These ones I cut back to nothing, they blowing up. Same thing with all this stuff here. Cut it back to nothing. Same thing with these in this planter. There was nothing here a few weeks ago. Look at how vigorous it is, and we got all this new growth and flowers. So like I say, folks, I don't claim to be an expert because I'm not. I learn as I go, and I do what works for me. If something works well, I repeat it. If it doesn't, I try something else. And that's what works for me. So you let me know your experience, and let me know what works for you. I think a lot of this stuff needs to be pruned. Not everything, but a lot of it. Especially if you want the fruit trees to produce and you want the flowers to produce. And in nature, I think wildfires and creatures breaking branches off and eating leaves, I think it accomplishes the same thing. I think it stimulates the plants. Anyways, let me know your opinion. I'll let you go. Y'all be good.